Hi, everyone. This is another episode of Patient Education and Doctor Education for Potential Power Nutrition. I am Dr. Mary Balliet, which I will introduce myself more on the next slide. And this topic is the nutrition for the developing body and brain in a child. And there's so much to know. This is part one. We're only going to do prenatal and infancy. And I want to thank Dr. Erica Callahan, who could not be with me tonight, but will be here with part two. And she's just traveling with her children, who are quite a bit older, but they're young. They're not. They're teenagers and stuff. All right, so let's talk about who we are. So Dr. Erica Callahan has a master's in applied clinical nutrition from the Chiropractic College in New York, and she's the associate dean of the chiropractic program at Campbellsville University, where she teaches biochem and nutrition. And she supervises our nutrition research, and she supervises other nutrition research. And I am the former dean of the master's in nutrition program at the Chiropractic College in New York. I am also a professor emeritus from there, where I've taught for 30 years. Biochemistry, physiology, nutrition, and we have together and separately published many scientific papers on nutrition. So what are we talking about today? We're going to talk about what's happening in the womb for that baby, what's happening for the mom as she's carrying the baby, and then we're going to talk also about infancy and the importance of breastfeeding if it's at all possible. And then we will create another presentation about part two, what happens when they're actually children. So that is basically toddlers and up, and we'll kind of go through that in the second presentation. So the thing that's so important in the womb is that the mom is the environment for the baby. And the reason that has impact, we're going to see, is that the baby has an epigenetic impact. That means that what happens to the mom can turn on or turn off certain genes in the baby. So our genes are not necessarily how it's all going to go, because we can turn some things on and turn some things off. We can make an environment that helps protect the baby for their whole life when we do the right thing with the mom. So why do we have to have this? Well, let's talk at the health benefits there on the right first. If at all possible, we want to really have moms have a great pregnancy, and then when they give birth, we really want them to breastfeed. So when we go into infancy, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about what the mom needs so that the baby gets really great nutrition. And we know that that's going to have both short and long-term health benefits, both for the mom and the baby. So what do we want to tell women when they get pregnant? We're going to tell them they should eat better, not more. That's a really different thing than we have maybe been saying to moms. We actually sometimes think, well, I'm pregnant, I can have anything I want, but that is not evidence-based. What really we want to do is have all those foods that are really going to support the mom. These nice nutrient-dense whole foods, fruits, vegetables, the legumes, that would be like the peas and the peanuts, those things, whole grains, healthy fats, especially omega-3 fatty acids, particularly we're going to see DHA, super important for brain development, and nuts, seeds, fish, again, because fish have both EPA and DHA. We do not want a lot of processed foods. Processed foods do not always have all the nutrition. They just have caloric density or calories, but that doesn't mean they have the big three: protein, the carbohydrates that have the fiber, and the good fats. And when I have a healthy diet, now I'm going to support great milk production, great milk composition, and optimal health, not just for the baby while it's an infant, but their whole life. So how many extra calories does that pregnant mom actually need? Because we know she needs more, but she only needs about 300 to 400 more calories. That is a lot. If you're only normally eating about 1,200, 1,400 calories in a day, you're going to have to get up to about 2,000, but it's not 1,000 extra calories. It's only 300 to 400. How is it broken down? The first thing we want to do is really look at the macronutrients. And that's what we see here on my pregnancy plate. What we really want to see is carbs. this is where you do want a lot of carbs. Carbs is going to give that mom a lot of energy, and we're going to need energy to make DNA so that we can actually grow that baby. So now we want carbs, but we want carbs that are high in fiber. So we want naturally occurring carbs that have a lot of good vitamins and minerals in them as well. And we also want whole grains and starchy vegetables. So look how much of this plate is really in the carbohydrate realm. A lot of times when people think about carbohydrates, they only think about sugar and those kinds of things, but that is not what it is. It means I'm from a plant. And so we really want to have those non-starchy vegetables like the cruciferous vegetables, like the onions and the mushrooms and the peppers, which are sort of in the fruit category, but it's over here. And then over here, we can have those more starchy things, provided they have a lot of fiber, like whole grain, wheat, bread. So when we also want to have the potatoes and the root vegetables, these are going to be really important for the mom to get that 175 grams on average carbohydrate, and definitely at least 2-3 servings of fruit in a day. When we talk about protein, we have to get 75 to 110 grams per day. If we look over here and we see an egg is only 6. When I have about a 4-ounce piece of salmon, that's in that 25 to 30 range. But if I have less than that, it's not in that range. And we know that on average, 20 to 30 grams of protein can be digested and absorbed in a meal. And so we want to really get that. And if we're trying to get 75 grams in a day, we're going to have at least 25 grams 3 times a day. And later in the pregnancy, second and third trimester, we're going to need 100 to 110. So now we're going to also need a high protein snack. So we're really going to have to do that. That's 4 25s or 3 30s. And so we're really trying to get there to do that. And we want to have the good fats. And the good fats are going to come in the avocados, in the oils, in the protein that naturally comes with good fats. What about the micronutrients? This would be considered the vitamins and the minerals. And we're going to say also having food that contains probiotics or having to take a probiotic. Methylation is key. We cannot make DNA without methylation. And we have an entire video if you have MTHFR or COMT. There's 2 videos talking about those enzyme defects and the importance of the right methylators, the right amount of folic acid and B12, and intriguingly choline, which is found in egg yolks, nuts, and chocolate. Of the omega-3s, there are 2 kinds, EPA and DHA. Fish is a little higher in DHA, and why fish is a good thing. Now, because of the methylmercury that's in the fish, they say only 2 fish meals a week. And we don't want to eat way at the top of the food chain. We don't want to have a lot of swordfish. But salmon is a really great possibility. And so we try to have as good quality as we can. But mom has to have good food sources of probiotics or take some probiotics. And what we're going to see that's really important in the probiotics in a little bit is a probiotic known as bifidobacteria. That's going to be really important, not just the lactobacillus that naturally comes in yogurt. And we can do lots of different kinds of yogurt. When we want to make all this energy so that I can make more DNA, a very energy dependent pathway takes so much ATP. We make our weight in ATP every day. Now we're going to have to make a whole bunch extra because we have to make the weight, so to speak, of the baby. That takes B1, B2, B3 energy, as well as B5, which is pantothenic acid. But in order to make the electricity, to run your electron transport chain, the actual place you make the majority of your ATP, you need iron and sulfur. This is why we're going to see that pregnant women have a higher need for iron than a normal person, and certainly not a non-menstruating person. But even with menstruating women who the RDA is 18, they need quite a bit more than that. And this is why when we see these non-starchy vegetables that are the crucifers, the Brussels sprouts, the broccoli, kale, cabbage, here we see onions also very high in sulfur, have to have it or you can't make energy. Now, when I am making energy and we see the exercises here, we're going to talk about exercise in a moment. What can we do? What can we give that mom? Remember, we're going to have to get to that 110 grams of protein. Most people who exercise really know how much they need a lot of times a protein shake in order to make that up. And so that was really important for me, for both pregnant women, nursing mothers, postmenopausal women, women in general who don't tend to get enough protein by what they eat. A lot of guys doing a little bit better job, but a lot of women really needing that extra protein and needing it really packed in there. And so we picked 24 grams of organic pea protein. That's what's in here. It's totally vegan and hypoallergenic, but 24 grams is really basically 1/3 at 75 grams and 1/4 at 100 grams. You're now done. And so this could be your post-workout drink. This could be your breakfast. This could be your lunch. Additionally, you'll see here in a minute, we also put all the vitamins in here, and we're going to see that there are antioxidants that makes these vitamins work a little bit easier on the digestion. So we said we need methylators in order to make DNA and RNA, but we also need methylators to protect against cardiovascular disease. Diabetes is a big one. We don't want women when they're pregnant to get gestational diabetes. This is why it's so important to have the right carbs and the right fiber. Now, there are people who come in two different types of methylators. 60% of people do not have the MTHFR defect. For those people, the 60% who don't have the MTHFR defect, they have the capacity to put a methyl group on the folic acid, which then will get handed over to the B12, which will get handed over to the homocysteine, which will make it go back to methionine and prevent homocysteine, which causes damage to the lining of every organ, most importantly, blood vessels, nerves, pancreas. We don't want that, the joints. We don't want homocysteine to build up. In order to get rid of homocysteine, if I do not have the MTHFR defect, I have the capacity to methylate folic acid. I have the enzyme that does that. And I can then give it to B12 to give it to homocysteine to make methionine. And provided I have B6 in my diet, I can convert homocysteine to cysteine, which is very important to make the active form of pantothenic acid, or B5. It's also needed to make glutathione, and most important antioxidant in your liver and your red blood cells. And it's very important for insulin. So cysteine, super important, gotta have it. So homocysteine, we don't want that to build up, but it's what's called an intermediate. Kind of like I said on a different video for COMT, I'm like, here we see that we can have homocysteine. It's a precursor to methionine or the precursor to cysteine. We just don't want it to build up. And a metabolite of homocysteine or making cysteine, and we're making something else from it. I said in another video, it's kind of like making both donuts and bread from flour. We can make multiple things. We just do not want homocysteine to build up. This is the bad guy. These are the good guys. Now, 40% of us, including myself, have an MTHFR defect, and we have a whole video of that. Marie Cadell at Cornell showed that people who have the MTHFR defect do not methylate homocysteine with methylfolic acid. I bring that up because there's all of this media attention on the impact that if you do not have MTHFR, that enzyme, and you have the defect, you should take methylfolic acid. Problem is, you would never have had that for thousands of years. And if you look at this, what people with MTHFR defects do, we don't see any methylfolic acid in this pathway. What we see is methyl B12. We make methyl B12 when we don't have the MTHFR defect, but I put in methyl B12 or methylfolic acid, methyl B12 rather than methylfolic acid, because homocysteine is converted to methionine with the MTHFRs only by methyl B12. Where does it come from? Naturally occurring methyl B12 comes from the bacterial action on meat. So if I'm not going to eat meat, I have to have a supplement with methyl B12. That's absolutely true. But what I don't need is a second methyl donor, because the methyl group is like a hockey puck. We can only play it with one puck. There's no such thing as two pucks. I move this to this. so that I can do this. I have to move it. It can't be two of them. They will bang into each other. It's not possible. And then again, I need B6. Now here's the cool workaround. For people with MTHFR, choline, which is in phosphatidylcholine or lecithin, again, nuts, egg yolk, chocolate. I put phosphatidylcholine, sunflower, lecithin in the product for this reason. It's a functional piece. I'm going to convert the choline in my liver to betaine, which is naturally found in beets. So we want to eat plenty of beets. And that is another possibility to get rid of the homocysteine. And now I go back to methionine, which I need in order, believe it or not, to make sure I can make proteins when I have DNA to RNA to protein synthesis. So I want to be able to do the methylators. And this is why we had the slide so important to do the methylators. So what did I do? What I did was I put in 400 micrograms of folic acid, 100%. And the reason of that is the exact 100%. But pregnant women, they need 200 milligrams more. So they will have to take a little bit of extra folic acid. I recommend that they basically just take it as folic acid. It's nice and easy. It's inexpensive compared to taking a methylated folic acid. And this already has 100% of the methylcobalamin. So now it's nice and easy. I just take an easy folic acid supplement, super inexpensive, and I add it. We want to make sure we have plenty of lecithin in our diet. Again, nuts, egg yolks, chocolate, or products that have lecithin in it. This has lecithin in it as phosphatidylcholine. We need to have B6. Here it is as 100% of the RDA for B6 so that I can support the methylation cycle. And many women need extra vitamin D, and they're definitely going to need extra calcium. This has calcium in it for absolute sure. You can see it has 22%, but pregnant women do need more calcium. We're going to have to eat high calcium foods. That's the dairy products, the green leafy vegetables, and meat cooked with the bone. All of those things are going to have calcium, and they may want to take a little bit of an extra calcium supplement. Now, the interesting thing about calcium is only about 350 milligrams can be get in at any one time. So you can add some other kind of milk to this so that you could up it to that 350, 400 milligrams, and then I can get up to the RDA between that 1,000, 1,200. But I want to do it over time in divided doses. I don't want to overload the system and take a lot at once. It won't be able to get absorbed. And I cannot absorb the calcium if I don't have the vitamin D. But I cannot use the calcium to make bone if I don't also have magnesium. And so here we have magnesium in a really good ratio to the magnesium calcium ratio. And that's why greens are so important and so great. That's why nuts are so great. That's why chocolate is great, because they have a good magnesium to calcium ratio. All of the vitamins of the B vitamins to make energy are at 100%. The only thing that is low is the vitamin A palmitate. And that is because high levels at a 200% of the RDA, bones can start to demineralize. We can have as much beta carotene as you want. All the carrots you can eat, as they say. Greens have a lot of beta carotene in it. Anything that's orange has beta carotene, even peaches. Everything has it in there, but totally safe. Vitamin A palmitate, on the other hand, want to really keep track of that. Don't get to 200. Otherwise, we're going to have a bone demineralization, and we don't want that for the baby. We want really strong bones for that baby. And so we have to just look at foods that have extra vitamin A palmitate added to them. And some fluid milk has extra vitamin A palmitate added. So we just got to be cautious and take a look at that. And we want to have all the minerals. We said how much we needed the other minerals so that we can also run our electron transport chain and do all the other things. So we do have a lot of good minerals. And if you want to learn more about what all the minerals do, we have a video about that on what is total metabolic support on our YouTube channel and on our website. So how much iron? Well, when I'm lactating and I'm nursing that baby, I'm only slightly above the normal RDA for non-pregnant, non-menstruating women. Let's take a look at menstruating women. That's 18 milligrams. That's always what they want. And so all menstruating women, even with the shake, are going to need extra sources of iron. And when I am pregnant, I'm going to need a lot more iron. So we're going to have a whole slide on how am I going to get it. This is a great website. I recommend that you take a look at it, showing all the foods that are really high in iron. This is from the Red Cross because people who donate blood get iron deficiency afterwards. And so you can just see how much red meat is there. Sometimes it gets vilified. You want to just eat a good quality. Eggs have it, the greens have it. This is raisins, intriguingly, really have a nice little bit of iron in there. So we want to have that, but we're going to have to take a supplement. There is no way to get 27 milligrams. The shake itself only has 8, which is the RDA. You can look over here. And this is why I picked it, because it is the normal amount that you want to have, and then you're going to eat the rest as food. So there are multiple kinds of iron supplements. A lot of medical doctors will give you iron sulfate. Even though that seems like a good idea, because I said you need iron and sulfur, it's quite constipating and it's really hard on the digestion. The latest literature says that ferrous bisglycinate has the best benefit to make hemoglobin. The reason why I want iron is because I want to make hemoglobin. I want to make the cytochrome chain. That's this molecule right over here. Look at the iron bisglycinate molecule. Look how much it looks like hemoglobin. So that's really important. Another thing that looks a lot like hemoglobin, intriguingly, is chlorophyll. And that's why greens are so important. Greens have a magnesium instead of this iron here. When I have iron bisglycinate, then what happens is you'll notice that this iron says +3 and this iron says 2. Iron actually has to be in the +2 form in order to be absorbed. And that's why it says right over here, I need it with vitamin C. When I have iron with vitamin C, it drops this 3 to a 2 and it goes right in and gets absorbed. So if someone's taking an iron supplement and it doesn't seem to be working, maybe they haven't had any fruit. Maybe they haven't had any lemon water. Maybe they haven't had enough vitamin C in their diet. It cannot be absorbed unless it's in the +2 stage, and it has to stay there. So it's really great to put some fruit in the shake, to have some fruit with your iron supplement, to have a small amount of juice, not 8 ounces of juice, a small amount that's going to have some vitamin C in it. And now I'm going to be able to absorb it. I'm going to be able to store it, and I'm going to be able to transport it and get it to my bone marrow, get it to where I need to make the hemoglobin and the cytochrome chain. And what's interesting is iron +3 is considered oxidized. So I also want to not oxidize these extra fats that I need as I'm growing that baby. And so I want to not have these free radicals, because as we know, radicals are always blowing up something. And the number one thing they like to blow up are your blood vessels and your nervous tissues. So the literature on turmeric and ginger together is stellar. It's probably the best antioxidant combination out there. And cinnamon is not only really important for blood sugar handling, it gives a great taste, but it also is an incredibly good antioxidant. So those are the 3 herbs. They're organic, sourced herbs, and fair trade organic herbs in this. We know exactly what's in there. We check everything, really high quality. And so we know that we're going to put that fire out, because when I start to burn things to make energy, I want to be able to put that fire out. Now, why do we care? We care because this is a picture of a DNA molecule. Cells in the embryo have what's called one master genome. And the epigenetics is, what am I going to turn on and what am I going to turn off? So in other words, the DNA that's in every cell of your body, whether it's your eye or your toe or your knee, they all have the exact same genes. We want your body to know which ones to turn on and which ones to turn off. This is super important in pregnancy because we don't understand exactly all the things that go on, so that your body knows what to make where. You started as just one egg and one sperm, and you've got to make an entire body out of that. So epigenetics is very, very important about how is each cell, as it's growing and developing, interacting with its environment so that it knows what it's supposed to become when it grows up and becomes an embryo, and then it grows up and becomes a baby. So really important to do that. And there is a lot of evidence that we can set children up for a lifetime of achievement, or we can sent them back, kind of like starting a race where somebody's at the start line, but somebody's 20 feet back. They have a disadvantage. They have a disadvantage not only when they start the race, but the entire race. And so we really want that. We know from Marie Cadell and others that prenatal and infancy nutrition plays a role in brain development for those children, how well they're going to do in preschool and in school, how well they're going to learn their whole life. And so important that we give them a great opportunity to do that. So what about the kind of stress that could be on patients? Let me make sure that somebody's not trying to get in. I think we're good. All right. So what happens is that the mom is the environment for the baby. So if the mom has a lot of stressors, we know that she can have DNA changes that can actually end up in the placenta. And this is why they're saying that we can then impact the baby because of the nervous system is controlling their behavior and their attention. This is why we really want to make sure that the mom has the best nutrition and the best lifestyle so that that baby is going to make it great, have a great life. So what about lifestyle? Sleep and exercise, they come before diet. I have to be able to sleep. Now, any of us who have been pregnant know the bigger we are, the more we need extra pressure off of that baby. So we can see having the right pillow in the bed, because we can't lie on your back. The bigger the baby gets, it lays on what's called your inferior vena cava, and you don't get enough blood supply, it will wake you up right away. And so we want to have really good quality sleep. So we really want to be comfortable in there. And so we really want to have a great night's sleep. The reason that sleeping is so great is because you literally are going to tell your body to burn fat and reduce the sugar load. And you therefore help decrease the risk of gestational diabetes. It's due to a thing called growth hormone, and growth hormone is only made two ways, and that is sleep and exercise. And so because I need growth hormone, both for the mom and for the baby, so the mom has more muscle mass and she can carry that baby without having a lot of pain, then what's also going to happen is that baby is also going to grow the right size. Because babies who grow in a gestational diabetes, they get very, very large, and that puts that birthing process at risk. So we really want to avoid gestational diabetes, and gestational diabetes puts the baby at risk for diabetes later in life. So this is so important, adequate, good quality sleep for the mom. And what kind of exercise? We don't want to be doing like maybe CrossFit, but we definitely want to be doing stretching exercise. We want to stay limber. And we can see here is somebody doing yoga. Yoga, the evidence for yoga is excellent. Stretching, excellent. Low impact aerobics, great. All of those things are really going to help out. What about infancy then? Now the baby is born, we've had a normal weight baby, the mom's gained the right amount of weight, everybody's great, and now we have that baby. Now the baby is going to respond to the environment, not just their mom's nutrition. But babies who are breastfed, where the literature is the best on breastfed baby for long-term positive growth for the baby, both physically and neurologically, then we want to really still be caring a great deal about the mom's nutrition. Now, some moms have trouble breastfeeding and they're going to need an excellent baby formula. We cannot give them cow's milk. The literature on getting cow's milk before you're 1 year old, it's terrible. We do not want babies to have cow's milk before they're 1. We want them to have infant formula, and we want to have good quality infant formula. And it's possible that we may have to add things to the infant formula if it is not high quality enough. Now, the mom can get great quality milk when she's eating well. If, however, the mom does not go outside, then she's going to have to take extra vitamin D. What if the mom is pregnant from September to May in the northern hemisphere? Going to need extra vitamin D, because we cannot absorb the calcium without vitamin D, and we cannot build bone if we don't have calcium and magnesium. So now we also, when that baby is born, there are older mothers on average are going to have a C-section. No problem in having a C-section. But As the baby is being born, the baby is going to actually be exposed to really great probiotics in the mother's reproductive tract. And so for C-section babies, we really want to make sure that the mom's milk has bifidobacteria in it. So just like yogurt has a bifidobacteria, naturally occurring breast milk has bifidobacteria. It is bifidobacteria that's so protective in the intestinal tract, and the baby will have less colic when you have bifidobacteria. So what do we want to do for the mom's nutrition? We still want her to have plenty of protein. Remember, we're still going to be in that 75 grams of protein, maybe not at 100 anymore, but 75 to 80. I really like 1.2 grams per kilogram of ideal body weight because we want her exercising. We want to have the right carb to fiber ratio, and we still want to have plenty of good carbs. But now we're actually going to need a little bit of sugar as well, because the mom's got to put in some sugar into that breast milk, and we want the mom to have prebiotics. Those are the things that the probiotics like the bifidobacteria and the lactobacillus are going to grow on. Pointless to take a probiotic if I don't have a prebiotic and I'm not feeding them. And so anything that has good quality fiber is a great prebiotic. And because this has pea protein in it, and because it has other carbohydrates in there, so the cocoa has it in there, that's going to give a great prebiotic. All the B vitamins are in there so she can make energy. All the minerals that she needs for energy production, for her thyroid, which makes more mitochondria to make energy. And she's going to be able to reduce her inflammation. And if her gut is less inflamed, then the baby's gut is going to be less inflamed. We're going to have a better chance that the baby will have a good digestion. They'll poop regularly. They're not going to be crying with a lot of intestinal distress. So what about those extra supplements that we talked about? The mom, according to Dr. Hollick in his book, Vitamin D, the mom could take, especially in the winter, up to 4,000 international units a day, totally and completely safe. But the RDA is only 400, but that's the RDA for the baby. So the mom could also eat food that's very high in vitamin D, like fish. Dairy has extra D added. Peas, intriguingly, one of the reasons we put the pea protein in. So we actually add 100% of vitamin D, but that has a little more. And intriguingly, tropical fruits are higher in vitamin D. But you may actually need a supplement, especially if you're like New York, New Jersey, Michigan, anywhere in the Northern Hemisphere in the winter. If you're pregnant, you really want a nursing, you want to have that 4,000. But you can get really high quality, very safe vitamin D drops that you can add if you have infant formula for the baby. The mom wants to eat these things here, a nice fermented things. Now, some people are allergic to cow dairy, but there's so many great yogurts on the market. Now, you can have coconut yogurt, almond yogurt. If you're not allergic to soy, you can have soy yogurt. You can have kefir, fermented vegetables, kimchi, sauerkraut. Sourdough bread, intriguingly, has bifidobacteria, and that's what everybody was doing during COVID, right? And then breast milk naturally has bifidobacteria. And we can also get a high quality liquid probiotic, will need to be refrigerated, that if you're putting it in the infant formula, you could add to the infant formula as well. Now, what about having stress on the baby? Well, intriguingly, it's not a no stress life, it's the right stress life. We actually now have to teach that baby to coordinate their brain with the rest of their body. So we really want their autonomic nervous system to work, their immune system to work, their gut to work. These are things with a massive amount of neurological innervation, it's called, meaning that I have so many nerves that are going to my gut, and they are a two-way street. They're not just telling my gut what to do, but if I put something in my gut that's really distressful, I'm going to get a signal back, and it could really stress out my system. So what I say to moms when they have a brand new baby, if that baby is really colicky and you are breastfeeding, you are likely having something you are allergic to, and you're making a problem for that baby. So it's really great for the mom to keep track. What did I eat? If the baby's a little colicky, she's going to have to change her diet, and then usually that will clear up. the baby should not have diaper rash. If the baby gets a bit of diaper rash, that is a gut problem. The mom wants to start looking at what she's eating and putting in her body, because then she can make sure that the baby doesn't get diaper rash. You should not really have that. And diaper rash actually is a fungus. And so we really want that happy, healthy gut. We want that good bifidobacteria. And if the baby or the mom have to be on antibiotic, now we're going to really have to ramp that up and add more foods that are fermented, and most likely take a supplement that has not just the lactobacillus, but the bifidobacteria as well. Because that will actually keep the bad guys out. And then when we say your immune system, the reason the immune system is so important is there is a thing called the gut-associated lymphatic tissue, and the majority of your white blood cells actually live in your respiratory and GI tract. They come from the same embryological origin. And so this is why when we were talking about the epigenetics, really making sure that that mom has a great environment for that baby, so that that lung, large intestine, meridian can really work really well together. And now I'm going to have a really strong immune system, because foreign things are going to come into my system through my lung and through my intestine. So I want those to have the best white blood cells that understand this should not be here and I'm not going to let it in. When we talk about your endocrine system and your cardiovascular system, this is again another function when we talk about the methylators protecting the nervous system and the cardiovascular system by reducing homocysteine and converting it back to methionine, converting it back to cysteine. So that's how come all of this is related, and we want that baby to be able to do it. We really want that baby to be what's called homeostatic, where we're in balance. It doesn't mean we don't have any environmental stressors like we show here. We just want to be able to balance it, where we can go up and down on a seesaw. What we don't want is that the stressors force me, like getting kicked off of the seesaw. That is not good. So I need sleep, number one, to deal with stress. Lack of sleep, in another video we watched, elevates what's called the catecholamines. That puts us, when they're too high, in fight or flight. We don't want that. You can watch that episode. That was just last week. We want to have exercise, and we're going to see the importance of exercise and why it's so important to let that baby move around, to really be encouraging those infants as we're cuddling them and doing everything and talking with them. And then they start to land their belly and put their head up. And then we're starting to play with them, and the importance of play and interaction and cooing. All of that is so important exercise to coordinate that brain body function for the baby. And we actually have to just make the structure of the nervous system, which takes protein. When I am learning and I'm doing what's called psychomotor skills, I'm going to learn how to use my hands to do something, I'm going to learn to walk, that actually takes cables made of protein called axons in your nervous system. So that takes protein, that takes good fats like EPA and DHA and phosphatidylcholine, that's going to insulate that. So I have to have good fats. I didn't put that on the slide. I will add that. And we need glucose. So it's not a no sugar diet. It's the right sugar diet. We want to have sugar less than 10 grams at any one serving, but we don't want to have none, because your brain and your nervous system can only work on glucose. And we need vitamins and minerals so that we can burn the sugar and burn the fat. So how much sleep? Do you think your baby sleeps all the time? They do. In a 24-hour day, babies are going to sleep 14 to 17 hours. That is a lot of sleep. They have what's called, interestingly, uncoupled mitochondria. Your mitochondria make energy and heat. Babies pretty much are just making heat, and they have less energy. And when they are sleeping, they make a thing called growth hormone, and they can grow. So sleep is critically important for baby to have the right balance between whether they're burning sugar in their muscle tissue or they're burning fat. And when they're sleeping, their muscle is burning fat and their brain has all that sugar for development. So super important to have sleep for them and for us. Moms should try to have at least 1 6-hour uninterrupted sleep. And this is why the dads are so important, or the partner is so important. Maybe one time to spell the other parent out so they could get a 6-hour period. But that seems to be all nursing mothers actually need is 6 straight hours. They don't actually need 8, like most of us feel like we need 8. They need 6. And they're on average gonna nurse every 2 to 4 hours. So sometimes you're gonna bring that baby to the mom, she's half asleep, she's nursing, you take care of everything else, and the mom doesn't even know she nursed the baby in the middle of the night because she barely woke up. And so you just bring her the baby, she nurses, and she can go back to sleep. So it's really great. And then she can get her 6 hours. She can make it on 4, but the recommendation is it would be great to have 1 6-hour slot. And so I do tell my pregnant moms when I was seeing a lot of pregnant women back in the day that really try to nap when the baby naps also, because that would be really helpful because you're going to need your own rest so that you're not exhausted. Otherwise, this is why women are very tired if they think they're going to get everything done. What about exercise? There were great things about exercise, and you can click this for exercises while breastfeeding. It was a great website because what's interesting when you are exercising, you want to, if you're going to do aerobic exercise where you're going to build up a bit of or weightlifting and you're going to build up a little bit of lactic acid, it's better to nurse the baby first and then exercise. The baby doesn't love the taste of the lactic acid in the milk, so nurse, exercise, then by the time the baby's hungry again, it will already be cleared out of your system, provided you have plenty of water. So you want to definitely do that. Works like a charm, works every time. I think it's just a great thing to do. So what happens is, when should you go back to the gym, as they say? Well, you had a baby. You're going to have to wait a little bit. So they say 6 to 12 weeks is a good amount of time to wait before you say go back to the gym. Could you go back to the gym in 6 weeks? Absolutely. What should you do in the meanwhile? In the meanwhile, you want to do all the easy stuff. Stretching, yoga, things that are not going to be too hard. Your ligaments are a bit lax still, so you don't want to be stressing out your joints. That's gonna start to tighten up at that 6 to 12 weeks. So you want to start off, you want to see how you feel, and then you can up it. What's really cool is that at 3 months, you can do higher impact exercise and you're going to be fine, because now you have really gotten back a lot to your pre-pregnancy level for your ligaments. And in 2020, they did this very cool study. I put the whole reference up here. They found the thing that's in breast milk called 3' SL, and that is lifelong going to help that baby resist diabetes, obesity, and heart disease. So super cool to do that. And why, if you can, try to keep on breastfeeding to at least 6 months, because then you're really going to be able to do some bigger exercise. If you want to nurse all the way till they're 1, really great, because nursing makes, now we know the chemical. We always knew it was important to breastfeed, but breastfeeding plus exercise, even better for the baby than anything else. Is going to really impact their body composition, and they're going to get more muscle mass, just like the mom's going to get more muscle mass, and muscle mass is a sign of health. So I'm going to end the video, and I went a little bit longer than I said I was going to go because I didn't want to go too fast, but here we go.